Welcome to the Coffee Talk Podcast. This is intended for informational purposes only and not to be used as a primary basis for investment decisions. Consult your financial professional before making investment decisions. Shannon Ross is a registered representative and MBA of Lighthouse Financial. Lighthouse Financial offers securities and advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisories Incorporated, member FINRA and SIPC. Shannon is CEO and managing financial partner of Lighthouse Financial. Cambridge and Lighthouse Financial are not affiliated. And now, here's your host, Shannon Ross.
Well, happy Thursday, everyone. Thank you for joining us this week on Coffee Talk. Hope everyone is having a good week. How are you this morning?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah. It's a different kind of week this week. Yeah. I'm definitely not as bubbly as I was. I'm like,
well, you're
hello.
here.
I am here. Well, it's not been, it was my son's birthday this week. He turned 15, so I have another driver.
Did what with him last night?
I know. We went driving last night, which after my day yesterday, what was I thinking?
I don't know.
But
I saw the picture and I'm like, oh boy.
We went driving because he was so excited. And we're going to definitely need to work on lane changes. I don't know why I thought we should get in the car and he was going to be great, But yeah, definitely gonna. But he has a Jeep, and so it's slow as molasses, which I love.
That's how we did it too.
Yeah,
the slower the better.
The slower the better.
0 to 60 in like 5 minutes.
Well, except when somebody nearly runs up his backside because he. Anyways, so that was a fun part of the week. His birthday, 15. It was on Labor Day, so he didn't have school anyway. So that was good.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And terrifying.
Oh, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's have friends that are like, that's so exciting. And my kid's driving. I'm like, I wish I had your attitude. I'm like, oh my God, he's operating a motor vehicle.
We are now in the nighttime phase of learning how to drive, which I didn't think it could get much worse, and it is so bad.
No.
So I just praise God every time we return alive.
Make it back.
Like without any dings in us or the car.
Yeah.
So
this morning,
my favorite.
My son was like, hey, I think, Mom, it's legal now. I can drive to school. Like I can. I was like, no. Like the traffic getting into that high school is insane.
I know.
And I'm like, honey, you changing lanes. Like yesterday I told him to get over to the right. He did. Did not even look. Well, I was like, when I say change lanes, you have to he put his blinker on and he just got over.
Yeah. Oh, my daughter laughs at me, the ritual I have of my prayer before we start a drive about angels and blood of Jesus and whatever guards we can do around our car. I definitely use all the things I have in my toolkit because it's that terrifying. Because turning changing lanes, using your turn signal and looking.
And checking your blind spot.
is one difficult
Which is
maneuver.
kind of hard in a Jeep. Checking that blind spot, I've noticed, is a little different.
So,
I don't have that ritual. I feel like since I got him a cross necklace for his birthday and I had it engraved.
Hands on the car.
I'm sure
I
you
do
do
all the charismatic Christian things that are taboo.
You go all Pentecostal.
I do.
You go all Pentecostal.
Oh, yeah.
Do you throw oil?
I don't baptize it in water yet, but I probably will at night.
I don't know the baptizing water, but you could always anoint it with some type of holy oil.
Should put a Bible in the back seat, maybe.
Wow.
It's really not. I'm not superstitious about it, but I am very diligent.
Listen, whatever makes it feel safer and better. It can't hurt.
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
that. It can't hurt.
That's true. Yeah. So welcome to my
I'm
world.
totally going to do that to Eden next time we go driving.
We should change. You should drive with Haley one day, and I should drive with Eden one day. And I think it's like wife swap, except like driver's ed swap.
Mom swaps. Mom swaps. Well, yeah, he loves.
Auntie Shannon is real weird, Mom.
Yeah. Well, you know what he likes to call you. So if we do that, he's gonna be. Oh my gosh, Mom, the Shansta is weird. The Shansta.
My favorite nickname, I think, now these days. Well, good.
We also had another fun thing this week. I feel like we should announce it
because it starts today.
It does,
and it's very serious competition in our worlds.
And I lose every year, but we had our draft.
Fantasy football draft. Hopefully you all are participating in your own leagues this week, but we have a family league going and a work league going. So we take it doubly serious, I guess, in our house. But it's really the work league that's fiercely competitive.
Yes, we are.
It comes with a pretty good
sizable pot at the end. Everybody has to prepay.
You are the commissioner.
I'm
You're
the commish. I'm the commish.
Which is another good nickname.
And this week Dustin called me Your Majesty, which absolutely took the cake. I'm like, you know what? I like that better.
Yes. And I did win one year. So I do have a victory under my belt. And I got
pair
some
of shoes.
Sweet boots with it.
You did. My roster stinks.
Well, you can make trades.
I know. Well, I'm going to need to. I wasn't focused.
So the games start today. Yeah. So
my defense is up tonight.
Are good things.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited. At least it brings some levity and some light to kind of a really heavy, dark week.
I know.
Not dark, but heavy week. So I'm excited for football tonight.
Like the sanity topic this week has been all over the map.
Oh, is there any? I don't. No. I'm out. Fresh out of sanity.
Yeah. Between government and politics and COVID and vaccines and all the things. We have some very dear friends fighting COVID pretty hard right now. Yeah. And it definitely messes with all of us.
It's hitting close to home.
Our psyches are just like right on edge.
Yes, we're definitely on edge.
I know. So this show, it's been very timely for me. The show's titled The Good Samaritan this week because we're going to finish up the interpersonal skill set in EQ. And honestly, I feel like these things that we're going to talk about today are so important for us making it through this next season with one another and not be so divided. I find division right now. I mean, it was divided through the election, but now with COVID and vaccines and all the things, and it's just a different level.
Yeah, I don't believe anyone
in
anymore.
Families or I know it's hard. Finding truth right now is very
People are like, here's a study I found. I'm like, I don't believe your study.
Or here's a video. Like, here's a YouTube video. Do you know how many YouTube videos I've been sent? And
now there have been several this week actually that we've listened to that I felt like really cut through the
podcasts,
the crap, if you will. Sorry, pardon my language, but really did. I felt agree. But it. Otherwise, I'm like, don't. There's a study. You can find a study for anything you want. I found a good study I sent you last night, but we won't talk about that on the podcast. But it brought me relief because since there is no sanity, I do have Jesus and I do have, what does that say right there?
Your Tridel hat?
No. It wasn't a Tridel.
You need more happy hours hat. Right, I like it.
Right that. Yep. This.
Yep.
And Jesus. All right.
I hear ya. Well, good. Well, so yes, no sanity spends this week. We're just trying to hold on to sanity this week as we make some pivotal decisions in our worlds.
For sure.
So, perfect. Well, we're not going to do a quiz today, but when one comes, can I show you what I got for us?
Okay, whoa. This is what the prize is going to be?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is a added asset to our mix.
Oh, let me see.
Close your eyes.
Oh.
You can't open them until I tell you.
I swear I'm not. I swear.
Matt and Kelly are going to be so annoyed with the bell, but this is now part of our show.
I love it. Yeah, they are not amused. They're not laughing at us. No. He's like, I'm not putting a mic on your bell. I can tell you that.
Yes.
That's okay.
So I have a bell. So when we have a quiz, you can like ring the bell when you're ready to answer or when I'm ready to answer.
We don't get to use the bell for other things?
Or whenever we want to.
All right. Thanks. I love bells. I like it.
Prop.
Good job.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. I've actually been wanting to get one for a while. I'm glad that you executed. That's so typical of us. I'm like, I really want to do that for a while, and you do it.
Our next is a cash register. Since it is a finance show, we should have a cash register one of these days.
Because that's going to fit up here.
Yes, I know.
We'll figure it out.
All the things. Well, good. Well, as we continue our journey into EQ, we finished last week's show in a little bit of a drama. Of a revealing that we had several conversations about throughout the week to diffuse the intensity of it. So if you don't know what we're talking about, you'll have to
need to watch last week's show.
Yep. And we will get better. Just a retraction from last week's show. What? We didn't do a good job sharing the answers to the quiz. For those who are just listening to the podcast and even on the video. So we will do better.
Yeah, I didn't.
This is new to us, people.
I know. I just thought I could just hold it up to the camera and then people listening could somehow.
I got several messages. Ladies, we can't see what you see.
I'm glad you two had fun with that game, but we didn't have a clue what was going on. Sorry.
But I do like incorporating games.
I love the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the game a lot. But I think we need to just, for everybody listening, if you did hear the last week's show, we did get the saga resolved.
Yes.
You were right. I remember the conversation, but it was just far more intense in your mind.
It was probably intense on my side more so internally than on your side.
Yeah, it was going on between these 2 ears of yours. Yeah, that had never crossed my mind. But we didn't break up, and we're good. And I came back this week, and
that was several years ago, and we haven't had a breakup conversation since.
No, well, I didn't think that one was either, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Yeah.
Well, let's continue. So we finished up last week with interpersonal relationships. Okay. And so just as a reminder for everyone out there, how you know you're well adjusted in your relationships is, I'll read these off real quick. You have built up or currently are building up a useful network of friends and colleagues and professionals for your careers. Your relationships are authentic and you know people on a personal level. You have trust and compassion in your relationships, and you feel at ease with people and look forward to engaging in social interactions. That's a big one, because I can tell you a lot of work things I go to. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to go. But then when I get there, it's always fun. But it's the looking forward to I still struggle with in some interpersonal relationships, because I'm such a strong introvert, and you're an introvert as well. So sometimes it takes a while to dial yourself up to be like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I'm usually not looking forward to it. I would say almost never, depending upon what it is. But I'm almost never looking forward to that. Yeah. And then you're right. When I get there and kind of ease in, then it's better.
It is.
And then afterwards, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
That's why I'm an introvert and nobody believes me.
And how to balance or how to continue to gain in your interpersonal relationships is not just putting yourself out there, but to also realizing and looking at your self-actualization scores. Okay. So self-actualization is, putting your dreams and goals into reality, and realizing that you can't just do that alone. You have to have others to help you get there. And it's a lot of times that, and it segues to this show, because I feel like that Good Samaritan message that we're going to get to in a moment is pouring yourself out for others often leads to your own goals being accomplished as well. So we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
So any questions on interpersonal relationships? I feel like that one is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, none at all.
Because it's your relationships with people.
Yeah, that one.
I think we can. It's not rocket science, but important nonetheless.
Sure.
Yeah. So
good to talk about.
So the next one, the next one we're going to spend some time on this morning is empathy. And empathy is not the same as sympathy. So empathy is really the ability to recognize and understand and appreciate how others feel from their shoes. So you're trying to walk in their shoes, put yourself in their place. Mm-hmm. You take more of a depth to try to gain, I think, first-person perspective as much as you can, which I think in our society right now, people are greatly sucking at.
Oh, yeah.
They're not taking
This is not strong right now.
To ask questions? No, they're just skipping a judgment.
At least a lot of what you see. There's still tons of empathetic people out there. We're not trying to sound
there are, but
pessimist. But I feel
like if you took the temperature of our nation right now, empathy would definitely not be on the radar.
No.
And I think that's one of the things our society needs to get back to a place where we're all on the same page. Yeah. We're all fighting the same enemies. We're all going in the same direction. I don't know if we'll ever get there. And obviously our nation always has differences, but our differences, I feel like in the 80s and 90s used to complement each other and to complete the picture. Yeah. Because people were still willing to listen to one another and to ask good questions and to consider that you don't know everything, But nowadays, people are just, maybe it's because they're on edge, which I completely understand. And, they're worn out.
Well, I get it. Like, I'm kind of shut down. Like, it's sometimes, and I actually score higher on this, but I'm, I want to listen, and I want to keep an open mind. I want to definitely take in everybody's opinions and just respect them. It's not about agreeing, but it is at this point, like we said earlier, it's hard right now to even even want to read another article, and somebody just said, even somebody's well-meaning, and it's hard to even want to look to trust it, look into it, and I know that's not so much empathy, but our ears are becoming closed. But we're being so inundated with so many contradictions and many. This, that, and the other. Yeah. And it's all high volume, lots of noise. So you just kind of, for me, it's like I'm going inside. I kind of just go quiet and just hope I make the right decision. But yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. So historically, I was one of those who, because I think I was more arrogant and overconfident in my youth, where I was overcompensating probably for some insecurities that I had, which led to more of a tougher exterior which I didn't consider people's perspective very well. And I didn't score high, certainly on the empathy category if I would have taken it in my 20s. But it wasn't until, I feel like as we go through things in life and we go through tough times and experiences and just kind of get to know more types of people and be in different walks of life, our empathy can obviously vastly change and improve.
For sure.
But it doesn't just happen automatically. You have to have a lot of intentionality about it. And so here's how you know if you're well adjusted out there in your empathy. You are tuned in to how others are feeling. So you have that, intuition. Can you gauge kind of the tone of a room when you walk in? Can you gauge the tone of a friend or the tone of even a stranger, when you're more mindful of others,
and you can just tell that they've had a bad day,
totally, or they're struggling,
for sure.
Absolutely. You care about the thoughts and feelings of others as much as you do your own. So I think that's one of the main differences between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy, you're like, oh, I care about your thoughts, but not more than my own, right? You're being sympathetic, but not empathetic. Empathy is more going that extra mile.
Well, and I feel like sympathy is still more surface. It's still more, it's you genuinely feel it for that person, but you're not as engaged in how they're feeling versus empathy is that one extra step of you're more invested in how that person feels, whether they're a stranger or not. You're just more tuned in.
Yeah.
But I think on the other hand, and I can say this about myself, sometimes if you are too empathetic, it's hard to have tough conversations because you're trying to be too nice all the time because you're so taking their feelings into consideration that that conversation needs to be had, but you don't want to have it because you don't want to hurt their feelings anymore.
Sure. Well, and you can be too empathetic, and we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah,
I never really even considered that before because I was always trying to build enough.
Yeah.
But you can actually, it can go too far too. So we'll talk about that in a moment. And the last thing is that we all have to be mindful for, and this is, I think, more the litmus test of where people are. So under times of stress or moments of defensiveness, you are likely to adopt a less empathetic approach, possibly arguing your position without considering the need of others. I think it's because exactly of people's stress levels, and everyone feels like they have to defend their own decisions right now.
Well, to be fair, they kind of are attacked
from a health
for them
perspective. And both sides are just as guilty.
Yeah.
And what's so hard is even in families, like you're judging family members, really, like so ridiculous. Not that I've been judged by family members, but maybe. So hopefully
I haven't. I could definitely.
I might not get a Christmas present this year. Some family members.
My family and my family, my parents and my sister, we're all different, and we've actually made it through this some unscathed as far as a family of just respecting each other's decisions and supporting and stating our piece when we feel like we needed to, but not overly getting defensive about.
It makes a huge difference.
It makes a big difference.
At some family for sure.
Well, we actually listen to each other more because we realize the other one is not going to attack us.
Right.
We actually listen and try to understand where someone's coming from and understand that we're not trying to change each other's minds. Yeah. So our family's actually been able to, we did well with that during all of this.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's really good. Well, it's interesting when we talk about the soundboard approach. So we just talk, how do you know if you're well adjusted in your empathy? I was going to try to make up a word there, but I was going to say
I like it when you make up words.
Empathetically. Is that a real word?
Empathetically?
We need a dictionary in
Empathetically.
here.
I don't know. Listen.
You can look that up.
Chris told me I'm allowed to Google when I'm on the show. So,
but how we also, what helps adjust our empathy, if it's too high or too low, especially if it's too high, is reality testing. So that the next set of skill sets that we're going to work through is around decision making, and reality testing is probably one of my favorite topics to talk about because we all, and I'll just touch upon it now, but when you are low in your reality testing, you are making up false worlds and false realities constantly. Right. So, and again, I think as people are judging others, they're going based on facts that might or might not be accurate. There is so many conspiracy theories out there. There's a lot of made up facts that are not facts.
Because everything's a fact. By the way, empathetically is a word.
Oh, yay.
Well, no, I like it when you make up words. But so that wouldn't, you need to work on that.
Good.
You need to make up another word on the show today.
So let's talk about a world that I don't understand and don't know.
Tell me.
You can school me.
Okay.
Is when your empathy is too high. So I'll tell you what my reports say, and then you can give me first world experiences. Okay. So when empathy becomes more of a weakness, you struggle to make decisions that have negative outcomes for others. Maybe because you almost are overthinking it for others, that you're actually kind of, I think, you're taking away your ability to make, like you said, like firm decisions, tough decisions that might be right. You might find it hard to stay objective when strong emotions are involved.
Oh, for sure.
You run the risk of taking on other people's problems as your own.
Yep.
And not just from, empathy is good from a perspective of like trying to walk in someone else's shoes.
Oh, yeah.
But you can become over responsible, overburdened, where you can't function because their burden of whatever they're going through is upon you.
Yeah.
Which isn't healthy for you and doesn't help them either.
No.
You might find it hard to say no to things.
Yep. I can agree with that one.
Here's, I think, where your crux is you may focus on others' feelings over your own.
Yeah.
So if you're high in empathy and low in self-regard, for instance, because again, we're talking about the soundboard pieces of this, because you have low self-worth and you don't think much about yourself, if you have high empathy and you're always thinking of others, that actually continues to force your self-regard down because you're still like, you're like deleting yourself. Like you're not spending any time on your own feelings and your own self-respect and self-regard and those kind of things. You're you're too focused.
Well, and sometimes it's because you don't want to focus on them.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Sometimes you're actually just trying to avoid those.
And you neglect your personal well-being.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of moms probably fall in this with their kids.
Yes. Women have to be higher on this than...
I
don't mean just
so.
empathy, but I mean on the...
I don't have statistics on there. But think about, all moms are like spending themselves constantly to a point where a lot of them go to play like unhealthy. They don't prioritize their health. They don't prioritize their thoughts and dreams and hopes. Because, I mean, a healthy wife makes a healthy life. You know what I mean? A healthy mama makes whatever the rhyme would be. You do need to take care of yourself, which is why we have sanity spends, which is our kind of little joke on this show of what we're doing financially to invest in ourselves and invest in our own sanity, self-care type of.
And we love you, men.
Things.
We're not dogging you.
Yeah, men need to do it too.
Yeah.
Although I find it's usually easier for some to do that. Maybe not everyone, but some. Like you look at golf courses, and they're pretty much populated by.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Let's just say
I was going to leave that one alone.
I can say it on your behalf. Anywho. But that's where empathy can kind of, I think, get a little over the top.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it is, I resonate with some of those. Some of those are, I'm a little bit higher on this one because you have to be balanced in all of this, right? Yeah. So EQ, again, isn't about being the highest you can be. Yeah. Too high is bad, too low is bad.
Yeah.
So you have to be balanced. So I'm a little on the high side on this one. I don't, carrying others' burdens to that length, I definitely know some that are like that it's not the one that I struggle with, but saying no, definitely, and always prioritizing. The tough conversations one is a big one for me because you're so focused on wanting to
you don't want to have negative outcomes for others. You don't want to be responsible for those.
Well, if they're already wrecked or upset about something, and maybe the conversation needs to be had. In my mind, I'm like, maybe we can have this later. Yeah. Which I'm not saying is a bad thing. Maybe we can chat about this one later. Because to be honest, if I'm a wreck and somebody wants to have a tough conversation with me, at least I am getting stronger in this area. When they start to, I'll be like, no. You're going to wreck me even more. So just know. Usually back in the day, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, you can wreck me even more. No. So I think that's because I think with empathy, so often you're thinking, well, how would I want to be dealt with in this situation? Yeah. I'm not saying that's always right, but I think with empathy, if you're focusing, how would I want to be treated in this situation, then I want to treat somebody that way. Mm-hmm. So in that way, it's the golden rule, right? Sure. But to a fault if you're never having those tough conversations with somebody or saying no when it really isn't something that you need to do, but you're saying yes because somebody else wants you to because you don't want to hurt their feelings. Yeah. Yes.
It can be tricky.
It is tricky.
Tricky. But I can say this has been a good one for me because my side, when you're too low in empathy, we didn't discuss the too low. Oh, yeah. We did a little bit, but you're very insensitive and instead of being empathetic, you're typically angry. Which leads to being critical instead of caring. So those that are low or in empathy get angry over things, I think, more easily. And then they turn it into criticism. So instead of like, trying to help that person or, come from that person's perspective, they're kind of judgment, anger, criticizing them.
That's
doesn't help anybody.
That must be hyper low empathy.
Yeah. Hyper low. We're not talking well adjusted. We're talking those that are many standard deviations from the norm. Okay. So
they're judgy. Are they super judgmental?
They would definitely be, because they're not putting what they don't understand, they think is bad. Yeah. I don't understand you, so you must be bad. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And that's just ignorance.
Yeah.
And again, I walked that road. I'm not, I used to go out of a meeting and I wouldn't even think about what others were feeling in that meeting. I'd be like, people, and my husband, bless his heart, is probably one of the main persons in my life that have helped me realize, like, when you come out of, you know what I mean? Like, have you thought through this? Have you thought, because I'm always like decision, and the consideration of multiple consequences, because I'm more of a fact, more of a spreadsheet, of a financial decision person.
It's not because you're cold, and it's not because you don't care. It's just not your default, like, especially in the work world, that when you walk out of a meeting, you aren't considering what everybody's feeling, not because you don't care, but because I think one of two things. One, you're executing on decisions, and number two, you're on to the next thing.
Yes.
Like, that's
true.
closed and moving on.
I think the next version of the person I want to become is to do those two things plus more of the tone, more of the how are you, more, because they're people, they're individuals, like they're going through hard things, really these days.
That's right, you heartless.
So, no, you heartless bee.
I wasn't going to say it.
So let's go to the last one as we finish up this interpersonal skill set of emotional intelligence. Social. This one's kind of loaded.
Oh, this
because
is loaded.
I kind of think I lend this to another word that's very important in this point in our world as well. But let's talk about social responsibility. Yep. So social responsibility is willingly, hence the word willingly, contributing to society. To one's social groups, generally to the welfare of others. It involves acting responsibly, having social consciousness, and showing concern for the greater community. And again, we've lost sight of this, I believe, a little bit. Yeah.
This one's tricky to navigate in this season. Because you hear this thrown around a lot.
You hear, I feel like, social responsibility and social justice in the same vein, which they're totally separate things. But you also, I think there's an overreach. And again, you can be too high in your social responsibility where individual rights are being compromised or individual decision-making is being compromised and groupthink is coming into the landscape. Right. And so, this one's loaded. But social responsibility, think of it as like a moral compass. Okay. And I think from a financial perspective, this one has, I think, one of the biggest potentials of financial gain here, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, please tell me.
Is because the more you are, I have learned this, if someone said, what is the strongest financial truth that you have found through testing? I would say the more you spend yourself for others, the more it will be returned to you. That's not why you do it. That's not your motivation in it, but it's just a part of how this world is constructed. And I have found those areas I've been most generous in are the same exact areas I've been blessed the most financially. And I don't think there's a coincidence in that.
Okay.
And as I have tried to challenge myself, because again, money can do funky things to you. The more you have, it can increase fear and anxiety quite a bit. And I see this in a lot of our clients. I've seen it in myself, where you're just, you get to a certain point and now you're like all about protecting, all about hoarding, all about, like fearful of losing. But if you have this kind of social responsibility going where it's not just about you, the more you focus on you, the more fear increases, the more darkness can increase because you're closing yourself off to the greater good, to helping others, to the things that you need to be more like a river instead of a lake. With dormant, you don't want, or a puddle, you don't want dormant water. It turns nasty and poisonous. Same thing when we're all so self-focused on ourselves.
Isn't that what our pastor said, a river versus a reservoir?
Yes. That's a good one. I like that one. So I think this one, so let's talk about how do you know if you're well-adjusted in your social responsibility? Because this is hard because I feel like we're all over the map right now. So you're consistently demonstrating your social conscious and are compelled to help others. Again, compelled to help others, not just to say like you should do X, Y, and Z to help the greater good. Like you can't like force this on people. People need to do things out of their own heart.
Sure.
They have to be on board. It's not about behavior modification. It's about heart change. You are seen as a good Samaritan, hence the show, who helps out without expecting anything in return.
Right.
Like who wants an agenda? Like I am so, and you usually really help me here because I'm always planning for the agenda in people.
Sure.
So I really hate taking help from people because the last thing I
just
want,
had that
I know, are
conversation the
strings
other
and
day.
agenda. And
Yeah.
I do it to a fault where it's almost, I overcompensate,
Yeah.
I think, in that area. And then finally, gain fulfillment from a variety of sources, including those activities outside of work. So I think you have to be balanced. You have to, do some charity work. Get yourself out there. It helps with, you can see how empathy and social responsibilities certainly could go hand in hand.
Well, your psyche and soul, just that
Yes.
alone, getting
Soul
outside
care.
of yourself,
Absolutely.
would doing something for someone else, just regardless of what comes back to you, I think just from a healthy perspective of psyche and soul, you're getting outside of yourself, the narrow focused,
for sure.
Just seeing, I mean, don't get me wrong, we've all got troubles and hardships and everybody's got their struggles, everybody's got a story, but it only takes getting, serving at one soup kitchen or going to a shelter and serving to suddenly make you realize, and I'm not saying just to be grateful for what you have, that's good, you should, but it also just shows you the reality and gives you a perspective that there's so much more going on in the world outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And yes, you will be blessed for helping. And yes, you will feel better. And those are good, right things. But that perspective shift is
well,
so
again, you don't care if you're
healthy.
blessed. I'm just saying you will be blessed. You shouldn't care about it. That's not why you do it. But you are compelled to help others.
Absolutely.
The better versions of myself that I found in different seasons of life, I'm more focused on the outside, not internally.
For sure.
It's the internal times and seasons that I'm like, oh, you're just not winning. You're not
and by
killing
internal,
it right
just
now.
to clarify, we're not talking about self-care. Like that is not, we're not talking about that. It's the over-obsession, over-self-absorption where all you are thinking about is you.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with self-care. I just want to make that clarifying point because we always bring that up and I don't want that to be confusing for people.
100%.
Yep.
So, that's why we named the show The Good Samaritan. So the story of the Good Samaritan, I think most of you know, whether you go to church or not, of someone getting beat up in the side of the road and he was passed by several folks who were in a hurry.
Definitely not empathetic.
They were maybe sympathetic, like, oh, that poor man. And they just kept
and some were
going.
just judgy.
Yeah, for sure. But it took someone going out of their way, being empathetic, taking care of this man, paying for the care, paying for the restoration of this man. And he was named the Good Samaritan because Samaritans at the time were thought of like as the low people of
class.
society.
Yes.
And so that story resonates here because we all want to be good Samaritans. We want to be empathetic. We want to be socially responsible.
You should want to be.
Yeah. And it makes a better world. And that's,
does,
that's where I feel like for all of us out there, just to do a heart check, where are you on these things? What do you need to do to make some adjustments? Because again, the power of EQ is that you can change it. It gives you language to make a change, to continue to be a better version of yourself. And financially, again, tie it into a financial show. I think we have a book.
Do we? Don't drop the cup.
We don't have it on here. Oh,
Which
yes,
one?
we do. We'll put this on our resource bank. Okay. But Extravagant is one of a great book on generosity and what we're talking about here of like spending yourself for others. So
we'll put that on there.
We'll put that on our website.
Yeah.
So speaking of website, but as we close today, how do people find our website?
How do they find us, Shannon? Well, they... You're such a nerd. That's awesome. Well, Shannon, no, we want people to engage with us. Copy Talk Podcast. Follow us on Instagram. We've got copytalkpodcast.com. We have our YouTube. We have, and I did go on again this week because I wanted to see our last show.
Yeah.
I just put in Copy Talk Podcast.
I know.
Didn't even have to put investment.
Copy Talk Podcast, and it'll come right up.
And your favorite
There's
picture.
Some funny faces.
Your favorite picture in the green
I'm so excited
shirt.
about some of those choices.
That was so funny.
I know.
I got a
Thank you
huge
for
kick
sending
out
me
of
that picture. I mean, like, what's wrong with this? I'm like, what are you talking? I look stunning.
I screenshotted it and circled her face.
For those out there, being on camera is hard. I'm sure you realize if you've ever seen, yourself on video of any kind. But whatever.
I like wearing my hat.
It's about the greater good.
At least now I can I don't have to brush my hair. I can just braid it and put a hat on. I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, good. Well, we will.
Thanks, everybody.
We will get to another topic next week
what's
as we
next
continue on. So we just finished up interpersonal, and we will go to decision making, which reality testing and impulse control are in, which I think are probably the funnest, the most fun.
The funnest?
The funnest.
It's the funnest.
The most fun that we're going to talk about. So join us next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
This is intended for informational purposes only and not to be used as a primary basis for investment decisions. Consult your financial professional before making investment decisions. Shannon Ross is a registered representative and MBA of Lighthouse Financial. Lighthouse Financial offers securities and advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisories Incorporated, member FINRA and SIPC. Shannon is CEO and managing financial partner of Lighthouse Financial. Cambridge and Lighthouse Financial are not affiliated.